We're going to get more on this story now. Joining us live is Hatem Bazian. He is a professor of Middle Eastern cultures and languages at the University of California, Berkeley. Thank you so much for joining us on TRT World. I just wanted, first of all, we think what we're expecting today, although of course you never can fully predict it, is a prisoner exchange much like we've seen in the previous weeks. I wondered, what did you make of these exchanges, of the choreography, of the way they've been presented, and also of the reaction to them, because they've been closely watched around the world?
Well, if we take the Israeli government plans and goals for the war, the handover of the Israeli hostages was literally, it's a public relations campaign with many messages being sent both to Israel as well as to the international community. The fact that Hamas have demonstrated its total control of every aspect of the Gaza Strip, and therefore the negotiations about what post-war Gaza looks like, it seems that Hamas is saying that they have a big say on what type of negotiations that actually will take place and who will have a final say of the post-war setup. The second, which we also see part of the handover, is literally messages to the Israeli public and leadership. And it was not surprising in the last hostage exchange that they have placed the pictures of the Israeli leaders below the stage, in essence sending a message that this was a total failure on the strategic goals that were highlighted. And we see that even from the Israeli government side, many of the top leadership, military leadership, either resigned or has been completely replaced. So it's also another message that is being sent in there. And the response from the Israeli press and the discussions and the debate has been intense, in essence saying, what have we accomplished in the past 14 months with the bombardment, with all of the ammunition that we have used? And then we see the Hamas coming with their new or four-wheel drive Toyota trucks and cars. They're able to actually present a complete public relations choreographed delivery. So in essence, the Israeli public on the press side saying that it's almost that we have accomplished nothing, and saying that we have almost lost this war with Hamas. So these are the messages that we are getting and receiving from these very well structured steps for the handover, including giving gifts to the hostages and when they're released, allowing them to at least to appear in public, and then the whole signing of a delivery or a statement for the handover. All this points to a very well structured process, both for the Palestinian public, but more so to Israeli public and the international community.
And of course, this exchange is all part of this longer ceasefire deal. And we know that negotiations for the next phase of that ceasefire deal, which were supposed to start last week and now expected to start in the coming days. Does the fact that this deal has lasted so far and has endured, does that give you optimism about the next phase? Because we are expecting this next phase of talks to be some of the most contentious, some of the most difficult. Do you feel optimistic as we look towards those talks starting?
Well, saying optimistic and not optimistic really would not be the way to frame it. I do think that we have new development on the scene with the statement that Trump has put out in the White House of the United States, wanting, from his point of view, to take over the Gaza Strip. He said to own it and to ethnically cleanse the Palestinian population from Gaza. And then he responded into the question from CNN at the time, that they will have to leave, and maybe some will come back after a period of time. So that have actually put a new dimension to this negotiation. And would the U.S. and the Trump administration continue to press Israel to enter into the second stage in relation to the negotiations, or these negotiations will be just a dilatory type of strategy and tactic? Did Netanyahu extract any type of green light from the United States to come back into operation in both in Gaza, but we are seeing the military operations in the West Bank. So what type of green light did the U.S. administration provide for Netanyahu, considering that Trump have already allocated about $1 billion of additional military funding for Israel? So the negotiations in Qatar that's going to commence to try to negotiate for the second stage really is completely contingent on the U.S. administration and what would it do in relations to Israel at this particular time. And I know that King Abdullah of Jordan will be traveling to the United States, Sisi as well of Egypt. So it seems there is a lot of diplomatic moves that are taking place that will have a profound impact on the next stage of the negotiations and whether the ceasefire, the temporary ceasefire, will move into a permanent ceasefire and an end of the war. Today, Netanyahu said that we don't want the United States. We will hand the Gaza Strip to the United States after we finish from our objectives and operations, which is to get rid of Hamas from the Gaza Strip, which means that in here, that Netanyahu is saying that the United States can come in, but after we finish operations, which indicate at least that the Israelis might be ready to come back into conducting operations in Gaza.